Very cool.
That was pretty cool.
A lot of
That's
fun times.
That
Yes,
was
indeed.
the 2017 Drum Fantasy Camp. That was the opening of the concert at Martyrs with some of these amazing musicians we're looking at here. I just want to introduce them really quickly. Mr. Simon Phillips. Hello, Simon.
Hello.
Good morning. Steve Smith was also on the
Hi.
stage. Todd Zuckerman, you're up in my right corner there.
Hello.
Vinny Valentino, who I think was off stage a little bit there, and of course Chrissy Poland. We didn't get to that part to the music, but you were also there. And then today we've got Stanton Moore with us. Hello, Stanton.
What's happening? Good to be here.
Stanton was going to teach at the Drum Fantasy Camp this year, but we had to cancel, unfortunately. But we've been running these Groove Master classes, which is the live version of Drum Fantasy Camp. And so Stanton has been teaching some really great classes. Then, of course, Todd. Vinny has also done one. Chrissy's going to join in pretty soon. Steve, hopefully, at some point. And I'm going to keep bothering Simon until he does one, too.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome, everybody. And I just wanted to kind of just go around the horn and ask everybody what they're up to these days. So maybe I'll start at the top of my screen with Vinny Valentino, our musical director of Drum Fantasy Camp. What's up?
Well, doing a lot of practicing by myself, and fine tuning some of the things that I've always wanted to do. So spending a lot of time with the family. Nice to have dinners at a regular time, and gotten my kids involved with cooking, things like that.
Awesome. Very cool. How about Todd? I see you're right next to Vinny there.
So what am I up to? Well, I'm up to my fighting weight because Daddy's been doing most of the cooking around here. No one's lost my luggage since March, so that's nice. It's been safely in the garage. My big plan this summer was to actually learn how to become a reluctant engineer. But with the advent of audio movers, I still employ my engineer safely from his house. So I've been able to do a bunch of sessions here. I did the new Styx record here. I did my own record. So it's been actually pretty busy, but it's been nice to watch my daughter grow up in one shot instead of the snapshots that I've been accustomed to. And just trying to get into some routines here. And with my daughter's school starting, the routines are going to even get more routine-y. So it's been a very active time, and trying to find the silver linings and the good things in it all.
How about your solo record? Tell us a little about that, because that's been unbelievable.
No one's more surprised than I how it came about. My old friend J.K. Harrison, who I used to work with in the old days, he believed that I could do it, and he'd been asking me to do a record for years, and I always blew him off with the notion that, gee, it's very sweet and cute that you think that I could be a singer. But he sort of believed in me the whole time, and he's so gargantuanly talented. It was just like walking into a museum of paintings that were in, charcoal sketches, and we turned them into Technicolor, and, without him, it wouldn't have happened. But I mean, Chrissy, it's obvious to be a great singer. It's more than just singing in tune and singing in time, but you have to connect to each lyric and then connect all the lyrics together, or it's not real. And I think people can sense when it's insincere. So that was a great learning experience, being in front of everything in that regard. So yeah, it was an incredible experience for me.
And you sound wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, man.
You sound amazing. I was stunned, absolutely stunned. Damn.
I agree. I have the CD myself, and it's really impressive. I have to say.
This one right here. This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it.
Everybody should check that out, because it really is great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, Steve Smith, you have this
Yes.
beautiful lake behind you that people, I don't know if you can turn your camera, but it's.
If I do, I'll probably lose connection because my internet is so spotty.
Okay.
I'm in upstate New York by a lake, and it's a beautiful area, but I'm off the grid pretty much. I have a hotspot as my sole source of internet. So some days it just doesn't work. Some part of some days it doesn't work depending on the weather. But I've been finding a lot of creativity in making videos called From the Practice Room. So I'll work on a concept for a day or two, or sometimes a whole week, and then make a video and post it. And it's been rewarding and creative. And I actually have to say, I don't miss being on the road. I like being in one spot. And Stanton can relate to this. My latest thing is I'm working on Wilcoxon.
Yeah.
And so I have to send you those videos. But so I did a Wilcoxon solo called Rhythmania a couple weeks ago, and now I just finished one called Paradiddle Johnny, and they've been amazing to work on for my technique. And I'm mainly practicing them match grip because I'm trying to develop my match grip playing. And then I got into a tutorial where I not only played the solos, but I gave a pretty lengthy explanation as to why I'm using that material, revisiting the material. Really, I went through Wilcoxon books, and like when I was 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, he had a bunch of them, and I went through all of them. But so it's been creative and of course nice to be off the road. And it's my wife Diane and I are pretty much just isolated ourselves, and we go to farmers markets and buy food and then spend a lot of time every day cooking healthy meals. So that's another nice aspect of it. We're really into eating well.
That's great. That's really cool. So maybe you could then introduce Chrissy to everyone, because we were talking before the call about how she even came in with Drum Fantasy Camp, and it was really because of you. So how did you come across Chrissy performing back in the day, 2007, when we talked about doing the
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, at that point, that's when Vinny just joined Vital Information. He started in 2006, and in fact, we wrote an album called Vitalization at Vinny's camp in upstate New York. We got together and stayed there for a week, and every day got up and enjoyed the lake and wrote music. And in fact, that's how I ended up on this lake, because my wife Diane then took a day trip and came back to this lake where she actually grew up. And we ended up buying a place here. And so I was going to see Vinny play with his group at a bar called the Smith Bar at, I think, 44th and 8th. Is that right? That's where it was?
Right.
In New York City, right down the street from Birdland, actually. And I was blown away with the band. Joel Rosenblatt was playing drums, and Chrissy was singing, and it was a tremendous group, great experience. And then going back to that year when we started the camp, basically 2007, it was Steve, you and myself and Dave Weckl kind of talked about the concept. And one of the concepts that we as drummer musicians felt strongly about was to offer the opportunity for the students to be able to play with live musicians. So it wouldn't be just a drum camp only with drumming. There would be performance, music, and other musicians to play with. And both Dave and I had gone to the Stan Kenton camps. For those of you that remember, Stan Kenton Big Band used to have summer camps. And what was so cool about those camps is that they put together groups to play with, big bands, in fact, whole big bands. And they were transformative experiences for us. So we wanted to have a situation, something like that. And so that's when I recommended that Chrissy and Vinny come as part of the rhythm section. I think we started with the Vital Information rhythm section with Baron Brown on bass, and
Yep.
and I don't remember if Mark Soskin was on. I don't think he was playing keyboards at that time.
No.
Oh, actually, Tom Coster was still in the band. That's right. Tom was doing it.
That's
Right. And
But we did it without keyboards. I think the first one. Anyway,
right. Okay.
Chrissy
That's
played
right.
keyboards.
Yeah,
Yep.
I played
That's-
like second keys, but we didn't
That's
bring in
right.
like a shredder till later.
Right.
Yeah, we did concerts and we had
Chad's Legacy played, right? Didn't
Yeah.
Chad's Legacy play?
Russell Ferrante was on one. Or
Oh,
two.
right.
came in twice. Yeah, we had Russell Ferrante come, and then we had Ollie Rockberger.
Right.
Yeah.
One year.
And
And
now,
we
of
did-
course, we have Stu, the great Stu Mindeman.
We have Stu Mindeman now. That's right. But
Right.
Vinny was like, we got to bring in Russ Ferrante to do one, and then after that, he eventually was like, we just need a keyboard player. Like, come on. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that makes sense. Well, then Chrissy, what have you been up to?
Yeah. Well, I have also, like all of y'all, been enjoying the downtime. I had a lot of touring booked for the first half of this year, and I was pretty conflicted because I have a 20-month-old baby at home. I love traveling, I love touring, I love what I do, but I didn't want to be away from her that much. So I was having a lot of internal struggle trying to figure it out. And then when this all happened, it sort of removed that piece. So I've just been getting into, all things her and then all things in our home studio. Luckily, getting a lot of commercial writing work and singing work, so that's been good. I have a new single that I'm trying to figure out right now how I want to release it. I'm probably going to put a music together for it, have a new record in the pipeline right now that I'm actually working on with Stu. So we're finishing that just virtually together. Talking with Steve a little bit about possibly launching a Patreon going into 2021. I've ramped up a little bit of my online teaching, and that's been surprisingly good. I didn't think it was going to go well online, and I've actually enjoyed the teaching process online with my vocal students. I've had songwriting classes online, so that's been going well. And just like really digging into all things cooking and bartending, and it's become like a cafe at my house, and I kind of love it, taking the opportunity to do that while I'm home. And grew a garden outside, one day at a time. It's been good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So, Simon, what have you been up to? I saw some work with Derek Sherinian up on your Facebook and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, like everybody, had a lot of things booked. I was in, where was it? Europe, Bulgaria, and flew back on March the 1st. And I was supposed to leave for Japan March the 6th with Michael Schenker, 40-year anniversary of the MSG group. And March the 4th, everything was cancelled.
Yeah.
And I think for everyone, it was like, whoa, what's going on here? And, a little bit frightening too. So I was like, now what? And it's really strange, but I suddenly just started getting emails from people all over the world who decided, oh, well, it's time for me to do a record. And suddenly there was these sessions coming in. And I'm very lucky here. I'm in Ojai, which is quite a small town. We have 7,000, 8,000 people here. There's a studio 5 minutes away from where I am at the moment, because I don't have anything. My house is being rebuilt actually right now. And of course, they're in the same situation. There's only one person working there. So he said, hey, we need to work, so let's work. And that's what we did. And so I was going in pretty much every week, 1 day, 2 days a week, doing sessions for people. But the other thing I'm very lucky in is that obviously I have an engineering career too. I had 2 records to mix, and I didn't know when I was going to get round to them. And then again, because of COVID, the artists started really ramping up their work because all the tracks were done for these 2 albums, but all the overdubs have to be done, and everybody's at home and send the files, download, play, upload, and suddenly I'm getting all these files coming in, and I said, well, I might as well start mixing. One of them was Derek's record. So it's actually been a very busy time of year, or period, let's say. And I think it's changed the way a lot of people work. It's allowed people to do projects, which they probably wouldn't get around to now, which is great. Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer. It certainly is. The other thing, of course, is I put on way too much weight for me to start with, and too many cappuccinos, too much cooking. Before I'm getting real nifty with that knife, that chopping knife, you know. It's yeah. And for me, it's an interesting because my house finally is getting built, and quite honestly, I don't know how I would have dealt with this if I was traveling the way I was traveling, because every 2 days there's a call from the contractor. You know, where would you like this? You better come up and have a look at this. And, I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. It's. I mean, I don't know how contractors build a house. Now seeing it done, it's stunning. It really is. All the little details that have to be done, and of course all the code stuff, inspections. So that's been great to see that actually happening. And,
Simon, I totally relate to that because this house that I'm in now, we just built it over the last 2 years while I was on tour.
Oh.
And every free moment that I had from a 2 days off through a week, I'd fly here and deal with that. So it was overwhelming. Plus, Diane and I were going to antique stores and buying lamps and fixtures, you know, lights to be hung, and we handpicked everything that went into the house. So I totally get that. And it took over 2.5 years to build the place, especially because we weren't here the whole time. So it was tough.
Yeah.
But it came out great. So we're very happy with it.
Yeah.
Well, good that you're there. That makes sense.
It really, I mean, I don't know how I would have done it because as you know, there's just so many questions to answer. And things to you know, to figure out, you know, the flaws. You got to go online. You got to, and that was another thing with COVID. You can do it now, maybe, but it's very hard to go places to see things. So everything has to be done online. You don't know what color it is, so you get samples of stuff. And it's a very interesting period of life. Right. But anyway.
Wow. So Stanton is the newest member of the Drum Fantasy Camp family here, and you were talking about similar things, being off the road with Galactic, but now launching this new thing at Tipitina's. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so since you asked about the tips thing, we were talking about it earlier before we came online, but you know, Tipitina's has been our favorite place to play in the world for the last 20 years, and we've lovingly acquired the name the Tipitina's House Band, and we've played there 6 to 10 times a year for the last 20 years. This year was our 25th anniversary tour. We did the East Coast, came back, did Mardi Gras at Tips, and then the day we were supposed to leave for our West Coast tour, everything was canceled. So our initial idea was, okay, we're set up with cameras for streaming and Tips. We'll start streaming bands from Tips, but then things shut down so hard, we didn't feel responsible having a 6 or 7 or more person band, plus 3 to 7 camera people, plus a couple of staff. So Tuesday that just passed was the first streaming film that we did, and it aired last night. And the response and the the social media response, texts and emails that came in was pretty overwhelmingly positive. So it was profitable. We got a sponsor in Crystal Hot Sauce. So for us and our infrastructure, it seems like it's going to be a great fit. We've got one band every Saturday night for the next 5 weeks. So six bands total. So it feels amazing to kind of rethink things, put a plan into place quickly, and then launch this concert series and have the first one last night and have it look like it just might work. So that's exciting. And we're starting to plan season 2 with Trombone Shorty, the Revivalists, Dumpster Funk, and all that. But then over on my side as well, I've kind of tried to look at all of this as a sabbatical, and I've completely rebuilt my online teaching site, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, on a new platform. Took all my content, migrated it over there, and then I just released a 5-lesson course on shuffles that I've been filming throughout this whole quarantine. So shuffles, how to improve your shuffle, the triplet shuffle, halftime shuffle, the heavy shuffle. So just released that recently. I performed on Zildjian Live. That was just released Wednesday. Been getting some really good response from that. So just in the last 5 days, all these things I've been working on have come out. So that's a good feeling. But it's been, I'm trying to look at this so that in 10 years from now, with the club and the band and my website, we'll be able to look back and say, wow, we're in a good position now. Having to go through all that was really rough, very scary, and definitely uncertain. But if we hadn't been challenged with all of that, we wouldn't be in the position we are now.
Right.
With these, as Steve, you were saying, these additional revenue streams and these additional projects that we wouldn't have been able to really solidify and get off the ground if it hadn't been for all that time. So it's definitely scary. It definitely, pardon my French, but sucks to have all these tours and all this work that you were super looking forward to. I mean, we canceled Jazz Fest this year. It's going to be our 25th Jazz Fest in a row. I had a set with my piano trio as well. We were going to play Red Rocks this year. All of that just, but everybody. So you can't complain. You just got to pivot and shift and try to figure out a new way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what we were talking before we went live, was some of the silver linings to having some time off. So for the rest of you, like family time and other things like that, what have you been doing? What have you been able to do to keep busy and maybe reconnect a little bit with your off the road life?
So I've never in my adult life been able to have dinner at 6:30 every night. And it's like, whatever we're working on, I stop work at 6. We have dinner at 6:30, maybe open a bottle of wine. And I've been spinning vinyl lately, which has been great. So I'm usually my wife's sous chef. So I'm, chopping things, doing things she needs to do. Then I'll take a break, flip the vinyl. And then by the time we eat, maybe I have to flip it one more time right before we eat. And then, and that's been, just a very organic, grounding experience. And then sometimes we'll order food from one of our favorite restaurants. We're trying to support the local restaurants too. And we'll order enough for that night and maybe lunch the next day. Commander's Palace is doing a lot of delivery, and I'm really good friends with Dory McPhail, the executive chef, Patois, La Petite Grocery, all these different local restaurants. We're trying to support them, but also Steve will order a box delivered from the farmer's market, and we'll just this is our ingredients. Let's find a recipe that includes squash and avocado, and we'll figure out. So we've been cooking a lot more. We've been listening to a lot more vinyl, and just trying to get more on a regular schedule. And I too, like a lot of you, I've been hearing, I love playing music. I love working every single day, but I'm enjoying getting a break from traveling every single day. So
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying being in one place.
Yeah, I feel I've having a very similar experience, Stan, that you just described. Like, I pulled out a box of vinyl that I had packed away for a long time, and just so busy, I just hadn't even really set up the record player. And I put it on, and now we're like cooking at 5:30 every night. I put a record on. We listen to the whole album twice sometimes. And I haven't done that in, I think, since I was in college.
Yeah.
And it was reminding me, like, how, the whole of Spotify or online streaming, where you just could throw in a playlist or you jump from song to song. And obviously I know intellectually how different the experience that vinyl is, and I kind of have gotten away from it, and this brought me back to it with the record on, and then the cooking, and you listen to it and you're like, oh yeah, all these songs are on this same record. And that's been a really cool experience, making some drinks to go with the food. And it's same thing, we'll order once in a while. And I haven't had this kind of flow with my little family unit, I don't think, ever. And once everything goes back to as it was, as we remember it, I'll remember how wanting to make time to incorporate this vibe in again as much as possible, to try to pair it more with the touring, and remember that it's important to do these things. Completely got away from all that stuff, and that's been a real upside. I've been enjoying it a lot.
I have to say, the whole vinyl thing, I just got a turntable for the first time in decades in February. And to those that have been in vinyl for a while, you already know this, but it hit me like a lightning bolt of being able to teach my daughter that music isn't something that you just conjure out of the air. That, this is what Miles Davis looks like. This is, whomever is playing. I got the little Now Playing stand, and she's able to have the tactile experience of vinyl. And one thing that actually kind of made me emotional a few times was putting on a record. I kept all my records for whatever reason I did. I never got rid of my vinyl. For everywhere I moved, I schlepped them along with me. But listening to, say, Quadrophenia, that was a Quadrophenia that I listened to, in 7th grade. Like, that's the same one. That's not just Alexa, play. It's the photo album. All these records that I had, I put on. Those are the same ones that soothed me, that helped me grow up, that helped me become a better musician. Those are the actual grooves that I heard. And there's a couple times I'd just be sitting on the couch damn near close to tears at something that hit me emotionally, because of that. And like I said, people who are into vinyl, they already know that, but it was sort of a new epiphany for me. And incorporating that into dinner time, teaching my daughter about, this is Marvin Gaye, and this is why this record was important, or whatever. That's
Right.
been a big silver lining in this experience.
Totally.
As far as vinyl, like, I've been into vinyl at this point, I don't know, like back into vinyl about 10 years, something like that. And in fact, I also live in Ashland, Oregon part of the time. And in Ashland, Oregon, there is an incredible record store, literally a record store that's super cool that I can go shop for vinyl. And John, who runs, it's called the Music Coop, he made such a great point, because a lot of young people are coming in and buying vinyl. And he said that they're finding it to be something that they share together and all listen to the same music together, versus, on your phone with headphones, singular, one person listening with headphones to random tracks. Whereas a lot of the young folks coming into the record store, they buy a record, they'll go home and listen to it together. So, and that's how, what you guys are saying, your whole family's listening. And I'm doing that here too. We have a whole record player set up. And it's very cool, and I love that aspect of it, that it could be more of a communal, shared experience of listening to music.
Don't you find it infiltrates a room differently, the sound of vinyl, than
For sure.
digital music?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it definitely. Well, it sounds better because the music was created to be played on the vinyl. And so the way it was originally recorded and then mastered and the whole thing, the point was it was going to sound good on vinyl. And when you switch something like that to digital, it doesn't necessarily sound better. In fact, I've compared like Dark Side of the Moon CD to the vinyl, and the vinyl sounds way better. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
I have to interject here. So Protocol 3, I did CD version and also did vinyl. And we were just about to go into rehearsals for that tour, the Protocol, and they all came to LA. In my studio, I set up a little listening system so we could actually remember what we played and learn it again. I set up a CD player and an amp, speakers, and a record deck. And I said, all right, guys, we're going to listen to the vinyl and we're going to listen to the CD and swap between the two. Obviously, the vinyl is much quieter, so I have to, do this with a knob, the volume control. And the only difference is I recorded in Pro Tools at 96K, so the mastering for the vinyl came straight off the 96K version, and of course the CD is the 44.1 16-bit version, and you can hear it in the mastering room as it goes down. You can just hear the change straight away. And but we listened back, same song, lined them up as best as I could, and then CD, click, vinyl, click, CD, click, vinyl, like this. And I don't think anybody had listened to vinyl for a long time. This would have been 2015, 2016. And it was really stunning.
Mm-hmm.
The process is different, and it's so mechanical the way it's produced. And of course, as you know, you can spend many, many thousands on a turntable and a cartridge, stylus, and all the rest of the gear, but it's still basically the same thing. It's a beautiful, visceral, you feel it. That's the wonderful thing about it. Totally different. And yet the source was exactly the same. So, Dark Side of the Moon was recorded 16-track, the original, 216-track, Alan Parsons. And then, of course, remastered for CD. But you're absolutely right. That vinyl will there's something about it. It's beautiful.
Yep.
I must get a turntable again.
Yeah.
I'm still, people have been sending me vinyls just over the course since, 2017 when I had the fire. So I've got about 10 or 12 vinyls now. And I just released a vinyl too of another live recording, but I can't play it. So there's a lot of stuff I still got to get. One day.
But it's great to hold something that big, especially as my eyesight diminishes. To actually hold something that big, I can read it, and there's something about the bands that were fortunate enough to put out vinyl in the glory days of vinyl. The fans that you'll have forever, as opposed to bands that come and go, and it's one song on a playlist, and you can't gain traction over years or years. There's just something about the time that people spent with the logos and the artwork, sinking their hooks into people that has gained fans through the last through the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yep.
So Todd, your record that you just put out, you sold a lot of vinyl, right?
Well, I did a limited edition of 300, and it sold out, and it was incredibly expensive to do. But because I had gotten caught up in the vinyl thing, I thought, oh, geez, I have to do that. I have to, have to print this up. But yeah, it went pretty quickly, and I get emails every week about, hey, are you going to do another run? And I thought, geez, I could have bought first class tickets to Maui in a week at the Four Seasons for what it cost to print up 300 records. So I don't know that I'll be doing that, but it was a fun and successful endeavor to do that.
So what would be the quintessential vinyl record that you guys would want somebody to hear to reference something very important in music, very important to you?
Man.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to go get one. Hang on.
Besides Kind of Blue.
Did you know
Yeah.
there are two pressings of Kind of Blue,
Yes.
and one is out of tune?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I knew there were two pressings of that, but
Well,
Yeah.
this
I
is an
didn't-
amazing sounding.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you know this one? This is such a great record. It's Sam Cooke with the Wrecking Crew, just in a studio, no big production. Hal Blaine on drums,
Yeah.
and it's sonically a real amazing sounding album. And this it's also a great album,
Yeah.
and it's with Roy Haynes and a really great lineup of musicians. So those are two of our favorites right there.
Uh-huh. What else? Who else has a good? What would you want somebody as a reference?
Kind of Blue is it's
we
great.
just talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, super.
I'd
classic.
say Frank Sinatra live at the Sands.
Oh, Live at the Sands.
Count,
Yeah.
Count Basie Orchestra
Yep.
and Quincy Jones at the helm. Can't go wrong with that
or
recording.
in
double
addition, the studio versions that were right before that, Frank Sinatra and Count Basie. There's
Yeah.
two of them. Might as well be Swing, and I think the other one's just called Sinatra and Basie. And yeah, with Quincy Jones arrangements, pretty great.
Sonny Payne on those two.
Sonny Payne, yeah,
Yeah.
on all three of those records.
Smackwater Jack, Quincy Jones. In fact, those early 70s, maybe late 60s, early 70s, I think, records that, what's his name? He engineered them. Very famous producer, lovely man. He produced Paul Simon when they were in the control room and Gad was out in the studio messing around.
Phil Ramone.
Thank you, Phil Ramone. I didn't realize that Phil Ramone engineered those records. He was a stunning engineer. And one of the first sessions he did, he had a studio, I believe, called United in New York. I think that was it. But he was working for his uncle's studio. And one day, he got a phone call and, we have a session coming in from his uncle. Said, you can handle it. And the elevator opens and out comes Duke Ellington. That was one of his first sessions. And he was calling his uncle and said, we don't have enough microphones. He was a great engineer, Phil. Oh man, there's so many great albums, sounding wise.
Wow.
My wife got to record with Phil at Abbey Road after they did the Queen's Jubilee with Brian Wilson. And I was in the control room. He was a lovely man, and I thought it was very sweet. After the session, like 3 weeks later, he wrote Taylor and everyone in the band a handwritten, thank you note. That was a lot of fun, blah, 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 from Phil Ramone. I thought that was a very, very lovely thing to do.
He was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And we got to do one record with him and a few live things. And I read a lot of these guys' books, biographies, engineers, producers, musicians. I actually love them. And that's the producer that that's the style of producing I like. That's the one where you just sit there, stand there. If you don't need to say anything, don't say it. Just create a great vibe, great sounds for everybody, and let them get on with it. And when you need to say something, that's when you say it. So you're not there making your solo album, which Steve, you'll know this, during the 80s. It felt like we were doing records for the producer. It was his solo album.
Right.
Even as much to break up bands and bring other people in, as I was brought in on various sessions, situations like that. And I always thought, this just doesn't seem right. This is a band, music's not perfect. It's just gotta feel good. And I loved his way of producing.
I got to take a class with him when I was a student at Berkeley, and he was so gracious to us as young people, young students that were about to, leave school and go find our paths. And he was a great educator too. So just coming out of the studio and just sitting in a master class with students, the way he spoke with us and took the time to speak with each of us one-on-one, or what our goals were. He tailored it to every person. I was just enamored with the way he spoke to all of us about his personal experiences, and then how to facilitate what he does to us individual. It was just really great. I was very struck by him, a fan of everything that he's done in music, but just as on a personal level, as an educator, I was really surprised at how great he was at that.
Couldn't help you if you're a tape op or a maintenance guy and you align the machine up without the Dolby's in or the Dolby's out. You did it wrong. You wouldn't want to be in that room with him. Because the thing is, he knew, he was an engineer and he knew how to align a machine, and
Yeah.
he knew it's all for the artist, all for what we're doing. If you don't get your job right, you might ask everybody to leave and then just rail this guy. He'll never forget his lesson. But that's how it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very
So, Chrissy, you had a stack of vinyl. What
Yeah.
are the most important ones you dug out of there?
Well, yeah, I would say for right now, because the list could go on and on and on, but I would say as of right now, Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, essential vinyl listening for the horn arrangements alone, but top to bottom, songwriting, engineering, performance. And then I've had Gaucho on repeat on my record player, which is a record have been familiar with forever. But it would come in and out. I'd play a song here or there, whatever, on the iPhone. But listening to the whole thing and flipping it and going back and forth, I've just kind of fallen back in love with everything about that album. And then Hissing of Summer Lawns, Joni Mitchell, essential vinyl listening, like just chills. And I've heard it 1.7 billion times, every single time. Everything about that record is one of Prince's favorite records of all time. So phenomenal. I would say those would be top 3 to go to right now.
How about you, Stanton? What would be the essential listening for you?
Well, growing up when I did, I listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti on vinyl. So that is one of my go-to still. And then just in what we've been listening to lately, last night we listened to Aretha Franklin on vinyl. Of course, her stuff is always killing. And then we listened to an amazing sounding Dr. John solo piano. Dr. John plays the music of Mac Rabenek. So as you all know, Mac Rabenek was Dr. John's given name. So
That's great.
Dr. John plays the music of Mac Rabenek. Those are the 3 things we've been listening to in the house lately. And they're all pretty killing. And we're about to start this Tipitina's Record Club, which is going to be a monthly vinyl that we send out to people. Some of the things that we're hoping to get out in the front end of the launch is we have a recording of James Booker on the Tipitina stage from 1978. And we want that to be one of the first ones to come out on vinyl. So every month you'll get a physical vinyl, and then there'll be other archives that we're releasing as well. So those are some of the things we've been focusing on during all of this. And the Tipitina's TV went live last night, and now we're focusing on trying to launch this record club as well.
Nice.
It's interesting, very often, like at the camp, when you guys are talking about music that influences you, what you're into, I always find it fascinating. I mean, I know why this is for myself, but fascinating that most of you don't really talk about heavy drum-centric music as the thing that moved you. Very often it's not that. It's just pure music, like you're saying, singers actually, like a Sinatra or something. I was just wondering what your feelings about that are. There are a lot of drummers watching this, and I'm just fascinated by that.
Yeah, my
Well,
listening habits are don't revolve around the drums. It's just the music itself. And I think most of us probably gravitate to that. I mean, when I was young, I listened to all kinds of music. In fact, I kind of surprised myself when I went back and got my old record collection, and there was Crosby, Stills, and Nash and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily, and James Taylor. So you wouldn't necessarily focus on the drums, and I didn't. But then on the other hand, I had Cream and Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, and I did really listen to the drumming on those closely, but I just loved the music itself. But in general now, I rarely really focus on the drums. I just listen to the overall music and enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
And we were mentioning, Vinny was mentioning Frank Sinatra. I've watched, I think, 3 or 4 Frank Sinatra documentaries in the last 3 weeks. I've just kind of gone down a Frank Sinatra thing. Just obviously his vocalization, but just the career that he had and how inspiring it was. His whole comeback with Return to Eden and how that brought him out of obscurity. And in this time when we're having to rethink our careers and rethink of how we're going to come back from this, to watch him have such an amazing comeback and watch it from different angles of different documentaries, I've been kind of getting into that. I haven't been watching a lot about the drums. I've been watching stuff about Frank Sinatra and comebacks, and been getting back into the Muhammad Ali, George Foreman fight, and how he had to come back to that and how he overcame that. Like, if Muhammad Ali can overcome George Foreman, hopefully musicians can overcome COVID.
Yeah, right. I mentioned this last time. Did any of you guys watch the Jordan The Last Dance documentary?
Fantastic.
So killer.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Talk about human inspiration. Like exactly what you're just talking about, Stan.
Yeah, I did watch that and talk about a comeback. Yeah,
Seriously.
and that's one that's been inspiring me. It's like, man, you just gotta
Same. Yeah.
you gotta keep working, and then hopefully we'll get out of this, but we will be poised and ready.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, but the challenge, I feel like there's a chops challenge, meaning when I'm on tour and I'm like on the road and playing, my chops are up, but being off the road, even though I'm practicing every day, I don't know if I could play a 90-minute set right now. But the good news is everyone's going to be in the same boat. The bass players and the guitar players and we're all going to be in the same boat.
We're all going to be playing medium tempo tunes.
Exactly.
We're all going to be like
but-
Pink Floyd in the 70s, where they play a song and they take like 5 or 10 minutes off.
Yeah.
But Steve,
That's what I've been thinking about, actually, with doing when you record. I mean, you play the most. You play the song maybe all the way through once, maybe 3.5, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, or 7 minutes. But I don't. I always do it in sections anyway. And that would be the real challenging thing, is playing like a 9-minute, 10-minute tune.
Yeah.
Not stopping. That's where it's not so. I don't think it's so much the individual chop thing. I think we can get that back pretty quickly. I think
If you're playing a 9-minute song, you could just do 4 minutes, take a bathroom break, then come back and finish the other 4 minutes.
but
that's
Steve,
you're right. That's a challenge.
we did play for an hour and a half the other day. It was an hour and a half set, right? And we played it during the day on Tuesday, and to set a good example, all the musicians not blowing and not singing wore masks. So I played an hour and a half set with a mask, and I watched it last night. I was like, I've got about 10, 15 pounds to lose. And I could feel it while I was playing. I was like, I got to get a little bit more in shape. But you'll make it when we get back. I mean,
Right.
It felt so good to play for like an hour and a half. But I could definitely feel it. I was like, I got to get back into my gigging shape.
Well, to like readdress like listening to drums and listening to music, one of the things that having all this free time but still practicing, usually when I practiced before COVID, I was learning music to play while on tour. And that's when learning music, for instance, listening to Simon's drum parts on the Hiromi records, and I had to learn each record she put out. She'd send me the record and it would be a bit overwhelming, beautifully orchestrated drum parts for that super complex music. And then I'd focus and I'd learn listening close, doing some transcriptions. And it was a great experience and changed my playing. But when I think back, like Mike Stern would hire me for a gig, I'm listening, learning 10 or 15 songs. Dennis Chambers played on this one. Dave Weckl played on that one. Peter Erskine played on this one. And in playing with Steps Ahead, learning all these tunes that Peter Erskine played. So that's where I would really focus on listening to the drums. And that really have stretched my playing concept by learning all this music and using as a blueprint, as a starting point, the performance of the person that played on the record. That's some pretty inspiring stuff. And then Vinny, you've seen me do a few of these gigs. There's a producer in New York City, Milan Simic, and he'll put together groups for Birdland. And so I have, like what Stanton just did with Galactic, I have a gig coming up on September 23rd at Birdland. And that's John Coltrane's birthday. And every year we do a tribute to Coltrane, and usually I'm learning songs that Elvin Jones played on, or Coltrane when he played with Miles that Philly Joe Jones played on. So and I love that focus to really get into learning particular music and then using as a jumping off point what the drummer played on the record. So, but this September 23rd, and we're going to play live in the club. It'll be broadcast, and filmed, but it's a drum and sax duet with Joe Lovano, 90 minutes of drum and sax. So I'm listening to Rashid Ali and interstellar space, and it's going to be quite interesting. How that's going to turn out. I'm not sure how that's what it's. And then the next day we're going to go and record a tribute to Bud Powell, but that'll be recorded with Helen Sung on piano and Lonnie Plaxico on bass. So that gives me some focus. I really like that focus, and I'll be getting into that project. And Steve, I'll have you put it up on the website now that I got the call last week that's how we're going to do that Coltrane gig.
Cool. Hey Steve, talking of Hiromi, the 1 minute piece.
Yeah, that was fun, right? Yours is killer.
Well, yours is killer too. I mean, but as with generally with Hiromi, I mean, you hear the song for the first time and you're going, oh shit.
It's never gonna. Yeah, how am I gonna get this? But you know what I did, and you probably did the same thing. She sent me a demo. She sent me a handwritten chart, and I just learned it and memorized it, and then went and played it all by myself, and sent her a video, and she played her. That's probably what you did, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you play it all by yourself, some tune that you're just learning, and it was fun. It came out really great.
I ran her piano track, which was a MIDI track actually, and just sent that through the headphones, and then recorded the kit and filmed it and did. But I did. It was only 1 minute, but it is complex. Right. So I
didn't do that. I just memorized it and played it by myself.
Oh wow!
Without listening, because she sent me a track, but it was like it just started and stopped. There was no count off or anything, and I memorized the tune and just played it unaccompanied.
With a click, I hope.
With a click. Yes.
I'll never forget when you called me. I had just had my hair cut, and I was coming out of the hairdressers, and the phone came, and it's Steve. and we had just recorded Voice. It was the first album, but I couldn't do the first shows because I was still with Toto at the time. And Steve calls, "Hey, Steve, how you doing?" He said, "Yeah, I'm just listening to this Hiromi music." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's really hard." I said, "Yeah." "No, I mean, it's really hard." I said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Wow, I'm so glad that you think it's difficult because, boy, challenging. Talk about challenging. But
No
as
question.
you do it, you learn the music, you eventually kind of get it under your fingers, and you play it, and what fun it is, isn't it?
Oh, it was an amazing experience and super intense each and every night. You know, with Hiromi and with Anthony Jackson on bass. You know, two incredible musicians, and it was a life-changing experience to play at that level, play that hard music at that level, and with the sense of freedom that those two play with, it just freed me up then within an incredible discipline, but ultimately just it was quite free, really.
Yeah. It's basically two percussionists and a monophonic instrument.
Yeah.
You
But
think-
and when I say free, here's what I mean by that. It's that those two were so self-contained that I
Yeah.
didn't have to do any babysitting whatsoever. Meaning I
Okay.
didn't have to say, here's one, here's the shape of the, you know, it's just like, hang on, let's go. And no one ever got lost, turned the beat around. It just was
Great.
playing with
Right.
some high level players. It was pretty, that's what I mean. It was very freeing. It
Yeah.
was very cool.
Yeah, wow, it's cool. Nice.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Steve, how many people do we have on? Can you tell?
That are watching right now,
Yeah.
about 200 at the moment.
Okay. Are they commenting anywhere? Do they want to ask questions or anything? Or
There are some comments coming in,
okay.
and I will look to see if there are any interesting
click on-
questions here. And anyone watching, please. Oh, I see someone from Cincinnati. All right, I went to Cincinnati.
Just might be nice to answer some if they got any questions.
Oh, this is an
Click on
interesting.
the- Click on the comments.
Yeah, you can
Window.
click on it on the
Yeah.
side.
on the right.
You can see them.
Oh.
Okay.
There's one that I see here. I guess we sort of answered it, and dare I say, he's James Geddes is asking you about staying in shape physically and drumming wise during this time, especially with respect to older drummers. He's not referring to any of you though, but
There's nobody here that fits that description.
I know it's not a good question. But how is everybody outside of the drumming part getting out and doing things to stay in shape?
Well, yoga for me, and a little bit of light weights, but essentially yoga.
Yep.
Yeah.
I go for
I
a
mean,
walk.
Walks. I think, like what Stanton said, it's going to be interesting when we all experience playing our first show. I'm doing a lot of playing here, but I'm not playing a 90-minute, 2-hour show 4 or 5 nights a week. That's a different type of stamina. So that's going to be something that I think will have to be built back up to. I mean, I have no interest in working that hard here, frankly. I'll get a little tired, I stop, right?
Right.
But I think that's a healthy way to do it. I don't want to push myself, and as it is, I kind of feel like a little more like achy and creaky in my body for having not being on the road and kind of keeping that up. So, has anyone experienced any sort of new aches and pains to not adhering to the old schedule?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more rickety than usual. Like I said, maybe 10 extra pounds kind of adds to that. And then I've bought a jump rope, but I haven't used it yet. And when we're touring, I have a little regimen of push-ups, different abdominal stuff, and some very simple yoga sun salutations that I'll do. And I'll usually try to do those 3 to 5 times a week, like in the hotel or backstage, and haven't really been doing those. So I need to get back into that. I've just really been focused on work, and luckily I've been pretty busy with all that. But I feel like when I'm working, I exercise a little bit more. Lately, I haven't been touring, so I haven't been exercising as more. I need to get into it.
Well, Stanton, of course, New Orleans is a great place to drop 10 or 15 pounds, right?
Oh, yeah. And that's the problem, Todd, is that I'm home for the most I've ever been in my adult life, and I can still have Commander's Palace delivered to my door. You know? It's challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely a discipline. It's, you know, like anything, even with music, with the physical stuff, I find that if, you know, you're not going to wake up and be like, oh, I'm so dying to do this really hard workout that, you know, is going to be exhausting and, you know, going to make me hurt the next day. You just, for me, I know it's just like, I just have to do it anyway. And that's been helpful. We've been walking a lot too. I don't know if you guys just like go for walks, go for bike rides. We've been starting to walk like 4 to 6 miles a day throughout the day between the dog and the kid. And then I got a couple of kettlebells and built like a dusty gym in my basement, and I've just been like raging with weights, and it's been very helpful. So.
Yep, I second the walking thing. I've been walking every day, sometimes twice, 3 times.
Yeah, but when you're walking, Vinny, you're playing like pentatonic scale at the same time.
Yeah, we got a treadmill. I'm doing that too, but that for a different reason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I bought a yoga mat.
you
That's
bought
great.
a yoga mat.
That's great.
That's
That's a
usually
start.
the first steps.
That's
That's
a
usually the first step.
I'm telling
So-
you guys, kettlebells, they're your best friend. You got like
Cowbell-
1 or 2
cowbells?
kettlebells.
Okay.
Yeah, you just go like this. No, they're great, and keep you. You can do. They can really keep you in shape. It's good, all the way around.
Well, earlier on, Steve Smith mentioned something about making sure that we had the band, you know, at the camp. So Vinny and Chrissy, of course, they sort of steal the show at the camp every year by, you know, directing this amazing band that we have there. But it kind of brings up the question to Chrissy and Vinny about when drummers come up to play with you at the camp, you know, what are you looking for from them? What really makes a good drummer in your eyes, playing with the campers and then also getting to play with all these guys as well?
I love this question. This is always my favorite question.
What's the answer?
Me too.
The answer is seven.
Well, the first thing I always tell, as you all who have been know, the first thing I always tell everybody that comes up is keep your eyes up. Just don't put your eyes in your hi-hat, or worse, have them closed, so you just have cut off everything else. And I find that it's definitely something that, especially the young kids or people that are new, have to work on, because there's a combination of things. It's a new experience. They're nervous. Also, at the jam nights, we've got these world-class, famous drummers that are coming in and just hanging. Just, okay, let me watch you play. So, of course, the kids and the adults that have not done this before are going to feel nervous and intimidated. And trying to get that out of their bodies and realize that everything is on an even playing field here. You know, everybody's here to just have a good time and support and have fun. So just watch me and I'll have your back. Watch Vinny, he's going to cue you, you know, just watch and groove. And we've said this before. There isn't a drum fill in the world you can play that any of these guys can't do, haven't done, haven't seen 7 billion times over. So don't worry about the tricks. Just play the groove and watch. And that's how you work. That's how you're gonna work. That's how you're gonna get the gig. You know, let me just see you do that. And I find that when folks really are doing that, that's when we have the best time. You know, it really doesn't have anything to do with perfection, obviously, or flawless techniques. It's just the joy comes out when people can get out of their head and just get into their heart and just groove and play and have a good time and experience the moment for what it is.
Yeah, well said, Chrissy. I think, I second all that. It's what I base a class on that I teach. The whole, during the Drum Fantasy Camp, we call it the Groove Class. And the concept is break it all down to its minimum groove and just learn how to do that. And I've also taken that concept online and tried to teach that, tried to further those examples online.
Yep.
Well, the thing that's kind of terrifying getting up to play, because I'll get up and play a song as well,
Brick
is
house.
Brick house every time.
I'm starting to get good at it after 12 years.
You gotta
But
bring the battle back.
I know, well, Chrissy and I sometimes play Brick House together, and but she's doing it with heels and the whole thing and making it look a lot easier than I find it. But
You remember when JoJo was like, let's switch, and he decided he was going to be the singer, and he put me on the drum kit?
Yeah.
That's a great example of really joy, because it's obviously is not my first instrument is drums, and his first instrument isn't singing, but we just did it for fun. It was so fun. It had nothing to do with the technical perfection. It was just really a beautiful moment. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
oh, yeah, but when you're playing, oh yeah,
Well, a comment, along these lines, and Stanton, I think you were at this. It was a Mike Dolbear camp that we did just outside of London, and there was a band, but the band was almost like a heavy metal band. The guys in the band kind of looked like Spinal Tap.
Which is amazing.
But and a lot of great players were there and sat in and played with the band. But there's a drummer, and Simon, you'll probably know Clem Cattini.
Oh,
So
yes.
Clem Cattini was
With him.
something like the Hal Blaine, one of the Hal Blaines of England, and he played on, Petula Clark records and just all kinds of albums that were recorded in the '60s. And he was a pretty, older gentleman at the point that we went to this Mike Dolbear camp with a band. All these drummers had to get up and play, and it was like, Clem, get up on stage and play. So Clem got up on stage. He doesn't have great chops or anything, but he can play the drums. And it was remarkable. It was the first time the band sounded like a band all night.
Yeah.
So he had this gift that he pulled everyone together, so it actually sounded like a unit. And it didn't sound like four musicians and a drummer. It sounded like, this is a band. You could make a record with this band. Oh, yeah, that's why you're Clem Cattini that played on all those records, because he had that ability. So that takes it even a step further. Like Chrissy, I tell all the students, eye contact, first thing. Look at everyone. Keep your eyes open. Just play the groove and have some fun. And then at the next level, pull the band together and have it sound like a unit. Unify the group.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so cool you met Clem, because Clem was indeed kind of England's Hal Blaine.
Right.
That with a few others. Lovely man. We used to do sessions together in the mid-'70s, 75, 76. There was this little fad going on that producers would book two drummers. I guess it was after Adam Adamant or Gary Glitter or something, So you'd turn up to a studio, Lansdowne or EMI or Polydor, whichever it was, to see another drummer there. And it would either be Barry D'Souza, or you probably don't know these guys, Barry Morgan, Ronnie Verrill, used to do double drum with him, and Clem, and
Well, how about Brian Bennett or Bobby Graham? Any
Bobby
of those
Graham, yeah. I didn't work with them, but it was so funny because we would play double drums, and studios in those days, the drum kit was always put into some sort of booth or screened off, and they'd obviously were much smarter than me. I was very young. They got there earlier, put the drums in to the booth, so I was stuck on the outside. And sometimes with string players, And I was always a bit of a loud drummer.
Mm.
They didn't like me at all. And I had long hair, beads, patchouli oil, no beard. I was 17 years old, and it was so funny. And I could tell these guys, they were much smarter, much wiser. They're in their booth, headphones on, just dig it. And I'm playing, reading the chart, and I've got all the string players looking at me going, oh, it was really hilarious. But yeah, that was a whole period of these double drum sessions, which were really fun because you never get to hang out or play with other drummers. And it was lovely, we just chat away.
Very cool.
Each other's kit. It was like looking at each other's car, what rims you got, what size tires you're using, it was really cool. It was fun. But Clam was wonderful. Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
Wow. Yeah, to what you were saying, Chrissy, when I look over and either Baron Brown or James Genus or any of these great bass players are playing next to you at the camp, that can be very terrifying or relieving when they give you the nod of you're doing it.
Yep.
and that's kind of where I focus when I get up and I'm like, as if one of them looks pleased and not trampled on by what I'm doing,
For sure. The few times that I've played drums at the camp, that's every single time I'm just, whoever's playing bass, my eyes never leave their fingers, because that's my only prayer to make sure that, because I know that they're trusted, tried and true. I trust them more than what I'm hearing in my own head. So, and when I see that with people that get up, at drums is their first instrument, and they're getting up and they're playing and they're really watching, I'm already like, okay, this is going to be less work for us because they're watching. Great. If they're not watching, then it becomes, we have to start at that point. And yeah, I mean, I think that's number one is the eyes. Your eyes got to be up if you're going to play with a band. They have to be up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have some classes coming up. So Todd Zuckerman's going to teach a class coming up on the 29th. There are only a couple of spots left in that one, so that one's doing very well.
I'll do my best to be there.
Yeah. You don't want me teaching Brick House, so you better show up.
There it is.
And then Dave Weckel's got a class coming up. There are a few spots left in that, and you can go to thegroovemasters.com because that's where we're doing these classes now, hoping we can do a camp next year. Very much hoping to do that. But the drummers you're looking at on the screen are actually our 2017 camp. Without Stanton wasn't there. Will Calhoun was there, so I hope to have him on a future call, because there was a really great moment with him and Simon during that camp. You guys did a couple things together actually during that camp, some little duets and some things at the concert that were fun. Really great stuff.
Arrangement. Vinny, he did a wonderful arrangement of a Jimi Hendrix tune. Do you remember what was it?
It was, I'm drawing a blank.
Little
here.
Wing.
It wasn't Little Wing, was
No,
it?
it wasn't.
Wasn't it Little Wing?
wasn't.
I
It was
remember that.
Spanish.
No.
Spanish.
No, it wasn't.
Did I?
Spanish.
No,
Spanish
I sung
romantic.
it. I think I sung it.
It was oh shit, what was it called?
Manic
I know.
Depression?
Manic Depression. Was it Manic
Manic-
Depression?
Yes, that is what it is.
Yes.
It was in 3.
Ah.
And what was it? How did he do it? He did it in 4 because it's in 3.
Yeah,
So-
he called me actually and said, we're going to put that out. I want to get the band together again and go into the studio and do that.
I was
And,
there in that little room next to where Todd, you and I were making gin and tonics, that little room. And I sat in rehearsal and watched you guys with Will. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, what a very cool arrangement. Beautiful. It was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
those were good
Yeah.
times. But we hope to do it. We hope to do it next year. Well, I guess this probably brings us to the end of this really great discussion. This has been so great, and appreciate all of you coming on. And I'm seeing so many comments from people just saying, "Oh my God, I missed the camp," and seeing you guys and being able to do this. So it's at least we can get together online. That's pretty fun. We should do it again.
That's
We
great.
definitely missed the camp.
Do it again.
We'll
Yeah.
do it again.
Yeah, it's been great.
Well, thank you very much. And please, everybody, check out what these guys are
Well,
up to.
it's been great
Stanton.
hanging with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, Stanton's got his school, and he's got that going on. And, you know, I'm going to keep bothering Simon to do a class with us because I think it would be really great. But Vinny's got his groove class that he does online where you can work with him. It'll send you tracks. So if you want to work with a guitar player and learn a little bit about the musical application playing drums, he's great at that. And I'm going to get Chrissy and Vinny together to do a class as well. I think that's going to be great. So we have to talk about that.
Yeah.
And Todd, you've got a class coming up, and Steve, hopefully when he's in a good internet position, we'll get him going too. He's a little off the grid up there.
When I'm not off the grid. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
All right,
It's been
guys.
totally fun and great to see everyone.
Great to see you all.
Take care.
Good to see you guys.
Great. I'm going
Todd,
to make
thanks
some
for the birthday.
Take care,
By the way,
everybody.
Todd's birthday.
Wait, Oh, Steve, you froze up there. You were, what was that, Steve?
Oh. Hang on.
You froze-
Don't sign off yet. Just want to. How about now? Is it?
There you go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Stand on one
Yeah,
leg.
Todd's. I'm going to be 66 next week, and Todd already sent me a totally awesome birthday present. It's
Ah,
a float, so I can just jump in the lake and float around.
that's
The
awesome.
Big
Which is
Joe.
really, the Big Joe float.
Big Joe.
So, thank you very much for that, Todd.
Send a
Appreciate
picture.
it.
My pleasure. It's my favorite pool float, lake float ever. So I'm like, you're up at the lake house. You got to have that.
Gotta have it. So, and he sent two, one for Diane as well.
Yeah,
so
of course.
totally
Aw.
cool.
Perfect.
But does it have a holder for a Monkey 47 Fever Tree
It
cocktail?
does. It does. Absolutely.
Of course. Of course it does.
But it goes down the neck so quickly, you really don't need it. You just, oh, there you go. Time to float.
Right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And
Mwah.
we'll see you
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
very
Good to
much.
Stay
see you
safe.
all.
Stay safe.
And
All
take
right.
care, everybody.
Healthy.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.